I'm Ryan O'Hara. I'm 17. I'm a senior at Marion High School. I play center field, and I've recently committed to Lake Michigan College, and I'm hoping to transfer out to a high D2 or D1 school after that.
Yes, sir, dude. Yes, sir. Worked super hard for that. Worked super hard
Yes,
for that.
for sure.
What were you kind of struggling with the most? And Dad, you can also kind of pitch in ideas or attest to whatever. What were you kind of struggling with the most before joining a structured program like that we had set up for you?
Uh, Definitely I didn't know a lot of the mechanical things that I was incorrect with in my swing and throwing,
Hmm.
and you helped me correct those and with no drills how to fix those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I can add into that a little bit too, because I mean I work with them all the time, and just having someone else's perspective, coaching your kid or baseball for years and stuff. It's just little things we all know as coaches can make a difference. And I saw Rye taking the things you were explicitly teaching him and showing him to make a small difference, and we all know those little things can make a big difference in terms of output. And I would see those in the cage, so it
Yeah,
was good stuff. Yeah.
100%. And what it really comes down to is I can play my part and give Ryan exactly what he needs, but at the end of the day, Ryan is the hardest worker that's in the program, and he was putting in the work. He was very adamant about his training and always reached out. So when you
Mhm.
have those two crossroads meet, you're pretty much going to succeed, right, in some form or fashion. So for sure, guys. As far as like the lack of structure or maybe that perspective, do you think maybe that was holding you back the most, Ryan, or was there something else that you think was kind of holding you back at that point before the program?
No, I think it was definitely the lack of structure in the weight room and in the cages, and then
Hmm.
also just the lack of knowledge.
For sure. So at that point, right, like before hopping on the program, maybe take yourself back to when we had like our first call. What kind of
Yes.
made you realize that you needed a different approach or maybe that other perspective within your training?
Um, from recording and looking at my own swing, I knew that I didn't have mechanically perfect swing, and just the little things that I just didn't know how to fix. And then
Sure.
I also knew that I wasn't being proper in the weight room, and I didn't really know how to achieve that.
Right. I
Yeah, and
think,
I
yeah,
was gonna say I'll add to that too as somebody who would go with him in the mornings. He's very dedicated, like you said, hardworking kid. But
yeah.
just having that structure, someone else kind of leading the way for him, I thought was important for him, especially. You take a kid who works really hard, you put some structure into it, which you did a great job of doing,
For sure.
and then just following up with him and checking in on him. I think that's critical. Having someone who's like, hey, I'm following up on you, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was Ryan. First meeting, I think you were doing like chat GBT programming and stuff.
Yeah, that was me.
Which honestly, man, that's pretty respectable because that shows that you really wanted to take it in your own hands. You just
Yeah.
didn't know the exact route, right? And reaching for AI or whatever is really a smart option. It's just that inclination, you had it. It just took
Yeah.
that little push, probably from an outside source to get you
Yeah.
exactly where you needed to be. So it was always in there, just had to get you on
Mhm.
the right track. And obviously, like I already mentioned, once you have that and then you add the actual structure, right, you're gonna hit your goals.
Right.
So,
Of course.
um, and this is no offense to me at all. I would just like to know kind of your first impressions as you started the program at the very beginning. If it was what you expected, or maybe there were some things you were questioning. What were kind of your first impressions when you started the program?
I was just really excited to start it.
Mhm.
I didn't have any I wasn't skeptical or anything. I'm always looking for help because I know I don't know everything,
Right,
and I was just mostly excited when I started because I knew that you could help me get to where I needed to be.
for sure. Open-minded, man. Being open-minded is
Yeah.
such a great advantage if you're able to step into that way of thinking. Because on my end as well, right? Like you jumped into a new program. This is also something new for me. Like you were in
Yeah.
that batch, right, of the first clients really that I've gotten into in an online space effectively. So um, I learned probably just as much as you. And when we first started, I was very excited, and I knew you were such a hardworking kid. And I knew you briefly, obviously, from the Canes, but
Yeah.
um, I just want to say like likewise, right? Like um we're kind of in the same boat with how we started. So
Yeah.
pretty cool and pretty interesting situation there for sure. Um but just as much as the physical and stuff like that, like certain players and especially guys in high school, they kind of have certain beliefs or habits that they have that might hold them back
Hmm.
from really succeeding or even seeking structure, right? So, what kind of maybe beliefs or habits did you have to let go of to really see those results that you were looking for?
Um, the I had to just one of the things that I liked doing before was when I got to the cage, I like to just do like regular BP, like hit and like not as much of the drills and stuff.
Right.
But that was one thing I'd start doing more of, and I kind of like that now, the drills for
Mhm.
sure.
And I'll piggyback off that too. As a parent, all parents out there you ever work with, everybody looks at their kid through, I would say, rose-colored glasses, and I think that's it's like, hey, my kid is just a hard worker. He does a good job. I don't want to critique him. And then the nice part about the having him work with you though is like you give him the little things that he was able to take and tweak, and sometimes kids take those differently from a coach or a trainer. But then at the same time. Uh, for me personally, it's like, oh, he was producing, where he wanted to be producing, but he knew he could reach out, he could do a little bit more, and I think just having that extra push from someone else helped him with that.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Ryan, was there like I don't know, it might be hard to pinpoint, but was there maybe a specific moment or like maybe a certain day you were in the cage or maybe a conversation we had that kind of flipped a switch in you that was like, hey, this is the right path that I'm going on, like we're making good progress here, or maybe some of those beliefs or habits kind of got flipped. Was there like a certain point in which that happened?
Yeah, there was definitely you remember when we started how the hit tracks for
Yeah,
us that didn't really work. So
yeah,
about a month into the program, it finally we got it fixed, and that was the best round of BP I've had since before my injury. It was the best round of BP of my life actually. But I
awesome.
was putting up like consistently putting up PRs, and it was amazing.
And I think that I'm just going to add to that too, as someone who just hit with him in that hit tracks machine for the last year and a half. Seeing a peak, kind of the exit velo is always something that we always look at and we're like, oh
Sure.
man, and then how many barrels you're hitting. Those two things were big, and I just in the last month or so, it's been a consistent, I would say almost 2 miles an hour more consistent off the bat.
Yeah, the
The
consistency.
consistency there though, and just looking at his barrel average versus prior. So I think it was definitely something that impacted
Yeah.
him.
Awesome. That makes me feel super proud of Ryan right there because I know that that jaw injury was obviously something that was very major, right, in your life and obviously baseball as well, but just as a person, like that's a big injury and
Yeah.
it's a pretty major setback, all things considered. And coming back and hitting those numbers and stuff like that is super commendable. So
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. But yeah, I'd like to. I know I said I was going to do this before, but have those two videos of right before you started and then where you're at now with your swing,
Yeah.
man. Insane. It from a naked eye, right? Someone who's not familiar with baseball could say there's a little bit of a change there, but the guys that are experienced, you sit back so much better on your backside, bro.
Yeah.
It just looks like you're confident with your load now, and it's like a big, powerful load that is in control. Whereas before, like you would sit on your backside, but you leaked. Obviously, we talked about
Yeah.
that a lot, and
Hmm.
the control wasn't there. So I think those drills were super good, and you made massive progress. And I think your hand speed, bat speed, and stuff like that is only improving as well. Just as this month three kind of wraps up, and that's kind of the focus there. So for sure, that kind of segues into what I'm wondering now is what kind of measurable improvements have you seen? I know you mentioned like 1 or 2 miles an hour on the consistency of exit velo, um, but weight room numbers too, like you were hitting the weights hard, man. You were doing the isometrics. You went through the whole three
Yeah.
phases. What kind of numbers were you putting up, exit velocity and strength wise in the weight room? That kind of surprised you a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started, I was a couple examples like squat. My squat went up from I forget I don't even remember what it was at the beginning, but it was probably somewhere of like for 5 reps, somewhere like 295, like short of a little bit short of 315,
Yeah.
which was something. I mean, I was putting up like better before my injury last year, but then now I'm doing way better than I've ever done. I think I got 355 for 5 last time, like relatively relatively easy, not to failure. Might have got one more, but then also like the split squats, I put on. I started the program at 225 like each leg for 5, and then by the end it was like 255 or 265
Yeah.
by the end. And then exit velo obviously went up from, I think off machine I started at 94,
Hmm.
then 90, it might have been, yeah, it's 94, and then now I'm at what, 90, 97, 98, or 97.7 I think was
Yeah,
it.
dude. And those strength numbers also um, kind of correlate with your 60 time, which I know you definitely
Oh
dropped
yeah.
that. At least based on that video, I guess Dominic sent me, but that kind of highlight tape that you guys made,
Yeah.
that 60 time was like phenomenal, right? Like that
Yeah.
was
I think I dropped point 0.3 on the 60.
yeah, dude, that's great. That's crazy. That is very impressive for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I was at 6'9" last time I got it.
dude, yeah, that's massive. That's massive. And that's attributed really, man, to your effort in the weight room.
Right.
And really, even in month three, there wasn't something I'm going to definitely be changing in my programming in the future. There wasn't that many sprints, or that the sprinting was minimal. There was some.
Yeah.
So that just shows me, man, that the strength gains you've been making have just been correlating massively to your speed, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that was another goal that we had set way back, right, 3 months ago, getting that 60 time down. So super good, man. I think we pretty much hit most, if not all, those goals that we had set. I'd like to go back and look
Yeah.
at those for sure and take a comparison, but I'd be pretty confident that we had hit pretty much all those goals
Yeah.
for sure. So, with all those improvements, right, how has that kind of affected your confidence or mindset as a player, as a person, really as a worker? How has that kind of changed your confidence and mindset?
Definitely more confident, feel more smooth with my swing in the weight room, definitely more confidence. And not even just there, just like altogether throughout all aspects of life, more confidence for sure.
Absolutely. I think it's, I think, like I said already, I think it's apparent in your swing. Like I can tell
Yeah.
that it's more confident, and
Right.
all that footage is pretty much a testament to that. So for sure, man, I can see it from the outside, and I think coaches, they'll have the same eye, right? Where that
Yeah.
confidence is going to make such a big difference for your last season here at Marion and, LMC and beyond, right? So
Right.
for sure, bro, for sure. Um, I guess this question is more aimed at Dad here. What kind of changes have you kind of noticed? And take this with a grain of salt, right? I'm not saying by any means that Ryne had a bad attitude, but what kind of changes have you noticed in maybe Ryan's attitude towards training, or maybe his passion or his drive toward training while he had some structure?
Yeah, I would say is the focus is what I noticed difference for him. He get to the weight room and it was he was there almost every day doing it,
Yeah,
but the focus on specifically, I'm trying to improve on, my bat speed. I'm trying to improve my foot speed. With in working with those two things, I think we're in arm strength. I mean, just that focus was something I noticed.
sure. And what I tell guys really is, when you go in there without a plan and you have no structure, but you know where you want to be, you're getting overwhelmed because you want to build this path to your end goal, but you just don't know how to build it. And with that comes, a bunch of anxiety, overwhelming feelings, just feeling like you're not doing enough or doing the right things. And structure obviously puts a stop to that right there, and you can kind of trust. And within that trust, that focus goes up. And the faith of your programming and your confidence as a player rides right with that. So that structure being the middle ground for someone like Ryne, who had already a hard a hardworking, personality, hard work ethic kind of player, you kind of throw something like that in between him and his goals, and that focus and that overwhelming feeling just kind of dissipates, right? So, for sure, for sure. As far as like the online kind of structure, the remote training experience, how does that kind of make you guys, how has that impacted how you guys view baseball development now? Years ago, remote training really wasn't a thing. It definitely wasn't popular if it was a thing. Definitely a newer kind of wave going on, especially since COVID. So with that being said, how is like the baseball development, this experience kind of impacted that for you guys?
I think the remote training is great. It might even be better than having an actual coach like in person, I think,
Mhm.
because it's like you can give me a plan on what to do and then also feedback, which is a huge part of it.
Right.
And I don't have to like we don't have to like wait for our schedules to meet to get that time in. And it's just
Yeah, I think that's the pro of that, right? I have for his younger sisters who play basketball, for instance, they have an in-person trainer that's and they just had another case the other day where he's like, hey, I got to cancel because I can't get there.
Right.
And that's where he can get to the gym almost every day and get to the cage in the facility and then just video and send some video feedback. So that is a pro side, the plus side of that sort of setup.
For sure. And obviously, like the strengths of the in-person stuff is touch points. Like physical touch points is nice to have.
mhm,
Um, immediate feedback, right? Like
yeah,
genuinely immediate feedback is a really good thing there. But the online stuff, right? Like the touch points can kind of be mitigated by, the video feedback and drawing up the swing and the mechanics and stuff and sending that back. And then obviously the video calls are another way to have that immediate
yeah,
feedback. So I agree, Ryan. Like being a coach who's done in person and online to me is miles better. Obviously, if you can do a mix of both, I think that's probably the golden ratio there. But online training is really taking over a lot of the marketplace for training for baseball players. So
yeah,
I definitely agree, and I think it's going to be a pretty big thing in the future for sure. So.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
as far as other guys, right, that were kind of in your position before, like if we took it back before again our first call, being in that same position, what would you kind of tell, another player that might be in that same headspace, who's kind of on the fence about online training or even training with me specifically?
I would say that if you're a player on the fence, if you value baseball, if you actually want to get better, it's you need structure, you need a coach that'll help you get there. And you're the guy that'll help them get there.
Yeah, I would say that Nate, you did a fabulous job of. He would always tell me he's reaching, talking to you. I think the meetings and stuff that you did, but I think just the structure, the way you reach out and touch in with your players and stuff like that made a big difference.
Yeah.
The program itself, though, I thought was great. I mean, having coached years and years of baseball, I just look at all the things you were having them do, and I'm like, hey, that's definitely you could tell that was geared toward what he needed and not what just any baseball player needed. So
Yeah.
I could tell it was personalized towards him, and I appreciate
100%.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome, guys. Of course, man. That is a very, very warming comment to me, and I appreciate that a ton. And definitely, definitely wanted Ryan to succeed just as much as he did. So building
Yeah.
that together, right? It wasn't just me because Ryan threw in his own thoughts, his own opinions on, basically anything that he was doing, and we were end up, crafting a program for him that ended up working pretty well. So for sure. One last question here, kind of similar to the last one, but if you could go back to your past self, maybe one that was questioning structure, one that was on ChatGPT looking for some programming, what would you tell yourself? Just one simple sentence. What would you tell yourself to tell that player how to get to the position you're in now? What would be like your one sentence to him?
I would say you need a personalized, structured plan.
And I think Nate Kelly can do that. I think you can do that, Nate. I appreciate you, man. You did a
Yeah,
good job. Great job.
cool
So
Yeah.
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, man, it was It was really, really fun training Ryan. When you get, lucky, for lack of a better word, got lucky with Ryan because he's one of those guys that is an open thinker. He's not closed-minded to advice. And he took things, to value, right? He took things that I said to value and worked
Mhm.
super hard at it, right? And that's a lucky player that coaches get to coach. And he's going to carry that into college, which is where that is going to shine the absolute most out of any level that you ever played baseball in your life, Ryan. Like college ball is when those characteristics and attributes simply put you above the rest because you're going to
Mhm.
go and play college baseball and there's going to be guys around you that just are not built like you, bro. Like mentally, they get distracted maybe, with whatever in college, but you're going to be one of those guys that are going to stand up, above the rest and it's only going to help you, right? So don't lose that. Do not lose that edge. Don't lose that mentality. Keep working hard. Um, there's going to be people around you trying to stray you off. Don't. Just don't. Stick to your guns, stick to your heart. That's my advice, I guess, at the end of the day, for the call. So